Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're so glad you could join us for today's session in our Striving and Surviving webinar series. I'm AFTO Communications Director Jason Brill, and this series was created with you in mind. Regulatory and food safety professionals navigating budget cuts, uncertainty, and all the challenges that come with it. Many of us are being asked to do more with less, stretch resources further than ever, and adapt to constant change and uncertainty. That's why we launched this series, to give you practical strategies, expert insights, real solutions, and the knowledge that you're not alone. Throughout this series, we'll tackle key challenges like managing your department effectively with a reduced budget, finding process improvements to boost efficiency, building resilience when everything feels unpredictable, and leading your team through times of change. Today's session, Holding Steady, How to Lean into Resilience, will help you discover how to guide yourself and others more confidently through times of uncertainty and transformation without losing the personal human touch. In this engaging and interactive session, you'll learn practical ways to foster emotional resilience, empathy, and open communication. Through real-life examples and hands-on activities, we'll explore how to build trust, support personal well-being, and cultivate a culture of compassion amid change. With us today is Dr. Teresa Peterson, Director of Learning and Development at the Noll Wilson Group. Teresa specializes in designing and delivering transformative learning experiences that help leaders show up more powerfully. We are recording this session today, so keep an eye out on your email for the next few days when we will send the recording along. We also have one more session in this series this week, Doing More with Less, How to Streamline Your Operation When Funding is Cut, is tomorrow at noon. You can register by clicking on the link we just shared in the chat. Also, now's a great time to encourage everyone to consider an AFTO membership. AFTO can't do the work we do, such as these webinars, without the support of our members. An AFTO membership provides access to resources, training, and opportunities to engage with peers working on similar issues. It also offers you the chance to be part of a network where everyone learns from each other and contributes to meaningful progress. You can find more info by clicking on the link we just shared in the chat. And that's enough for me. So let's dive in. Teresa, I will kick things over to you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Wednesday, or the happiest a Wednesday can be. I want to start with just a little setting of the stage, and then we're going to jump right in. When I was reviewing the AFTO website and looking at the list of things that you influence and things that you do, it felt like everything that I do on a regular basis, right? And what do you know? Today I have already eaten food, consumed medication, and used cosmetics. So I want to thank you personally from the heart for the work you did to keep those products safe. I want to jump right in and set the stage. And I think something that will feel really resonant to you about our session today, what I know about AFTO, and I want to make sure I get your pillars right: connect, share, impact, and protect. And we'll be doing all of those things today in our time together. Let's go through our roadmap together. I want to spend a few minutes talking about adaptive cultures through the lens of, I suspect you've always had to be pretty adaptive doing what you do, and now the pedal is to the floor on that. So I want to ground us in a shared understanding about adaptive cultures. I want to talk about how humans really experience change and thinking about that through a lens of resilience. I want to introduce the 4 needs of talent, which I think will also line up with connecting, sharing, impacting, and protecting. And I want to give you some time to reflect. Here are my invitations for you today. I know, and I want to thank Jason for reiterating this to me at the start of our conversation behind the scenes, that the last 5 years have been a whirlwind. You went from COVID, kind of that post-COVID, public health is a very tricky place to be, and now things are unpredictable yet again. So I want to give you some invitations for today to share your perspectives with one another, make it safe for others to share theirs. I invite you to listen and ask as much as you share. This one might be my personal favorite. Be open to changing your mind. and be present with what you and others are experiencing. Some wording related to your organization that I found on the website was that idea of there are many perspectives coming together with the goal of making it better. So I want to invite you to step into that many perspectives. Some other things you should know about working with us today. I'm joined in the studio with Nick, so you might hear me give him a shout out later. I want you to feel really comfortable, eat, drink, sit, stand. I'm here to serve you, not the other way around. So make yourself very comfortable and take a cue from my friend, my new friend, Chantel. Use the chat as actively as you can. Make sure it's set to everyone if you want everyone to see. You can also private message me anytime with a question or a concern as we're going. You would just change it to my name, Teresa Peterson. And I want to kick us off by using Mentee. We'll be using Mentee several times today. I'm using that intentionally because we've got a lot of folks on the call and because Mentee is anonymous. And so we'll use it a few times. If you haven't used it before, I'll walk you through this first time and you'll catch on just like that. So my friends, this is what I want from you today. What word comes to mind when you think about your current reality? When you're thinking about the very important work you're doing, what comes to mind? What word? And so we're going to use mentee.com. So your responses are anonymous, but we will get to see the responses. So you'll go to mentee.com and enter that code, or you can just scan that QR code with your phone. And then if you want to leave that link open the whole time, it will automatically adjust for you when we use different questions. So mentee.com and enter the code. Ah, yes. Okay, keep them coming. And friends, I know we've got about a group of people on about a 20-second delay. So I'll probably leave this up just 10 or 15 seconds longer than normal to give them a chance to participate too. Yeah. Keep them going. Oh, yeah. Oof. I want to tell you I'm having a little mist reading this list because I knew there would be heaviness in this group. I knew that coming into today. And sure enough, there is. I want to point out why I'm asking you to name this. A very common trap we fall into is thinking if I don't ask, it's not real, right? So if I don't say, hey, how's it going really? And then you don't tell me, it's like, oh no, I guess we can just continue pretending we're fine. And so I'm asking this to normalize and name. This is where we are as a group. Because one, if you were thinking you or your county or your state were the only ones, clearly not the case. And also to give us a jumping off point. Yeah, feeling protective, feeling unsettled, uncertainty, and uncertain are our biggest words. Anxiety, stress, fear, a roller coaster, feeling it's depressing, afraid, uncharted. Yeah. Something else I'll add is we can share these Mentee slides with you afterwards if that would be helpful to take back to your colleagues or use in any way. Whew. I'm going to tell you that list was about as heavy as I was anticipating, and it still snuck up on me a little bit. Here's our next one. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being high, what's your current stress level, right? What's the stress level this week? Yeah, okay. I also want to give you a big shout out. Thank you for participating so much with the Mentee. I think you can see already how much it brings the session to life. So we'll be balancing Mentee with some other pieces today, but this is really helpful. Yeah, a 4. I can't help but wonder for the folks who wrote 4, if you're like, well, I'd probably pick 5, but something tells me it might get a little more stressful before it. That's been, I can relate to that. I've been living that a little bit. Okay, and then this is our last piece for a moment here. How high do you think your stress will be a month from now? So when you think about that reality that you're experiencing, what's your, yeah, oh, Gretchen in the chat. She's a 3 now. Oh, friends. Whew. Yeah. Yeah, I'm seeing some thumbs up emojis coming through. Yeah. So yeah. So something that we just learned, right? We don't know individually how people are changing, but we can see from the numbers. No one anticipated less stress. I shouldn't say no one, we don't know for sure. My very educated guess about this data set is that almost no one, if there were one of you who thought I'd feel better, I think you're the only one. Transitioning out of being a specialist to a manager. Thank you for the specificity on that. Yeah, okay, good. I want to invite you, just like my friend Samantha did, you keep dropping those, interact with each other. I will do my best to name them when I see them come in. Because we have this idea of resilience. And why I started this way is giving you a chance to connect, giving you a chance to see where the group is. Because we tend to think of resilience as put on a happy face, rah, 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 let's keep going. We've done hard things before, and that is my least favorite way to think about resilience. So if you are eating lunch and thinking like, I really hope she doesn't just try to tell us it's all great and move forward and minimize what we're experiencing, you're in luck. That's absolutely not happening today. I want to share with you, and I noticed that there's a lot of similarity between your striving and surviving and this idea from Heifetz and Linsky, who are the authors of Adaptive Leadership, that when we think about these tough times, when we think about an adaptive culture, that people are mobilized to tackle tough challenges and thrive, right? That we, and the thing that I love about this and the thing that I've been hearing from so many teams is, I can tackle the tough challenges and still not feel great about what the challenge is, right? Oh, good. Yes. Thank you, Samantha. Just being able to hear that really helps. Absolutely. One of the best things we can do to support each other and to help with resilience is just to see one another. It is free. It's pretty easy. And it helps us feel less alone, because one barrier to making progress, one barrier to our resilience is when we feel like I'm alone, I'm stuck. And think about those lists. I'm anxious, I'm overwhelmed, I feel stuck, right? All of those things. So that's our first, just a micro technique. I want to talk about what an adaptive culture is, and then we'll move forward from there. These are things that I suspect have been at the heart of your organization and at your work for a long time, right? That you're proactive, that you're very learning oriented, that there's an experimentation mindset of getting better. These were all things that felt very relevant about traditional, what we would call adaptive cultures, and your organization and the work that you're doing. That there's feedback and honest conversation. I think that lives in that many perspectives and that sharing and connecting aspect. That there's shared responsibility, which I think is loud and clear. And the last characteristic of a truly adaptive culture is that people are emotionally aware and resilient. And that's where we'll spend our time today. And this is how we want to invite you to think about resilience. That this isn't even about silver linings. This isn't about whistle while you work or, feeling good all the time. It's about the courage to face it and keep going. So again, there might be aspects of things that you're experiencing that you think that might be good in the long run, but I hate everything about it today. And you might not have even that, right? It's about seeing it and keep going. That's really what's at the heart of that resilience. And I want to give a shout out to some of your leaders who I talked to in preparation for today, because we get a lot of requests for come in, pump everyone up, tell them it's going to be fine, and then leave. And that is not the work that we do or we're interested in. And they didn't ask for that either. They said, there's a lot happening. We want to talk about resilience and supporting others. let's go forward from there. And I loved that that was the angle they came in with. So I just wanted to name that for the organization, that that was really good. Oh, I saw a raised hand. Thank you so much. If you have a raised hand, unmute and come on.
Hey, Natasha, I will have to unmute you. I'm going to allow you to talk. You can unmute yourself and make a comment.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't see you. You come in here.
Hi, Natasha. We cannot hear you if you are speaking. You might need to adjust your microphone settings.
How about this? I'm going to keep going, Natasha, but you interrupt me at any time. Yep, no problem at all. Yeah, Sonia confirms my belief that continuing to put one foot in front of the other, right? A lot of times that's what we have to do. And thank you, Kim. I hope my energy helps a little bit too. It's some days it's all I have, to be perfectly honest. Okay, Natasha, you keep working on it and you unmute and come on anytime. I want to start by grounding us in what we've all heard 100,000 times, and I think that's a real number, that people fear change. And the thing that I don't like about this is it's very easy to minimize what we experience. And so I want to give us that loving push that people actually fear loss, right? If I popped in and said, hi, everyone, I want food safety to get even better, and I'm gifting you $150 million to do it, I don't know that anyone would be like, oh, change. I don't know about this huge influx of cash to do a even more robust job than we're already doing, right? No, I want you to focus on this idea of loss. And I'm going to say it one more time. When we keep the position of people fear change, we're very dismissive, just very dismissive. When we can step into, and this comes from the work of adaptive leadership, the idea that people actually fear loss, it positions us a little bit differently to think about the challenges ahead. And I just want to invite anyone to unmute and come on at any time, raise your hand. Excuse me if I don't see it right away. There's a lot happening behind the scenes here, but I want to make sure you feel really comfortable. Yeah, yeah. Samantha, yes. As someone who worked for decades in public school, my first thought too would be, what's the catch? I want to give you a few examples of losses that we've seen, just to normalize it, right? To help you think about all the ways this can look. Now, when you're talking about very obvious things, staffing cuts, funding cuts, it's easy to see the loss. But sometimes with change, it can be a little bit more challenging. One that really, that we see frequently is a procedure's changing and I've lost the expertise that I had related to that procedure or that grant funding or that particular area. That's a very common one, when that feels like there's a loss of expertise or seniority. But the one that touched me, I think, closest to the heart is I'm working with a group and they service lots of different vehicles. It's a municipal department, and they were switching to a lot of electric vehicles. And one of the losses being experienced by one of the guys who was a mechanic there, he said, first of all, his expertise was these more traditional gas-powered vehicles, right? Like that was his bread and butter. That's what he'd done since he was a kid, was get under the hood. And so there was a loss there. But then he said, I think if I'm being honest, like 3 generations of guys in my family have come home just covered in oil, right? And that's how the family knew they'd worked so hard. You could see the evidence of the hard work. And he said, how do I prove to them how hard I'm working when I come home and I don't have that? I'm clean, right? I'm working on things that don't use oil anymore. And I thought, that is a fascinating layer of loss that I'd never considered, right? That would not register for me. So in that spirit, I want to give you a chance to think about some loss, and then we'll share in Mentee. And again, a common misunderstanding is that we undercut resilience, or we undercut trust, or we undercut collaboration when we take time to name these things. And I'm going to tell you it is the opposite. And that's why we're doing it together today. So thinking about those losses that you and others experience or are anticipating you'll experience, and I'll tell you what, based on that graph we saw, there's a lot of anticipation of additional loss in this group. So friends, I'm going to bring up our mentee, and thank you again to Nick behind the scenes for keeping everything flowing so well. And I want to invite you to just name these. Again, it negatively impacts trust when we don't talk about these things, right? Think about having your voice stifled, having your voice ignored. You cannot do those things and encourage people to be resilient. Yeah, yeah, yes. Oh, all of it. These, keep going. Oh, yeah. The gasp was baby food safety. I mean, like, I could gasp at all these, but that one just grabbed my mama heart straight out of the gate. Yes. Yeah. Oh, God. Look at this list, my friends. Keep them coming. Just keep them coming, and then we'll go over these. Yep. Oh. Yep. 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 Keep them coming. I'm gonna hold it up here for a minute. We've got lots of folks still going. I want to invite you to, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. This is why we cannot talk about being resilient through this sunshine and rainbows kind of strawberry shortcake lens of things. Because all of this is in the room and you're all carrying that around. Job insecurity, like it's as personal as my job and my security and my passion and even my identity, right? And then it's as big as the safety of the food. Yeah, having one-on-one contact with clients every day. Thank you, Gretchen. And then it's as much as baby food, food additive safety, science being silenced or minimized or kind of feels tossed out, right? I was feeling all of that in there. And I'm going to say it so many times, you'll be like, is she going to say it again? And I probably will just one more time. We cannot talk about being resilient, and I'm going to give a loving push. We can't talk about doing the other things even in the series you're learning about if we do not name and honor these losses as part of our culture, as part of our resilience. Because, and some of you have messaged about this in the chat, when I have to hold all of this inside, I cannot see another path forward. Part of naming this and being resilient is naming it, loosening the hold maybe so we can move forward. And I'm using the word maybe because there's heavy stuff on this list that I will not dismiss in any way. Yeah, Samantha, our division is usually not really acknowledged during our all staff meetings. And I can only imagine how terrible it would feel because this group is very passionate, right? So we've got people thinking about science as a field, how that makes lives better, how that keeps people safe, that the safety of our food is something we take for granted. I'm leaning on food, but we can apply that to all your categories, right? I'm just kind of pulling from this list. Those are big things weighing on you. So then to feel like we're not even really acknowledged, or we're losing staff and no one seems to really appreciate the importance of that, those rubs, those friction points does not a resilient, creative, future-focused, problem-solving innovator make, right? And this is what I want to name. I'm going to skip to this one here, Nick. that being adaptive is about holding all of those truths, right? The gains and the losses. And I want to be honest, when I look at your list, if you said, I'm really struggling with finding any gains, I would just, bing, allow that to ride. But being adaptive is about holding all of that. And the reason I'm mentioning honoring loss is because something tells me you're being encouraged to look at all of the gains, right? That would not be unusual for some of the other people I'm serving, that there's this very superficial, naive push of gains and what feels like definitely not outweighing these very significant losses. And it doesn't feel like it's adding up. Yeah, okay, good. Let me make sure I haven't missed anyone in the chat. Oh, gosh. Let's name that too. Y'all invested a lot of time and money and energy to become experts. I just want to name that too. This is what I want to do next. I want to give you a chance to name concerns. There's a little bit of overlap here with loss, but not always. And so I want to hold some space for this. When you think about the changes, what concerns you? What concerns you? Then we're going to hop into some tools. But I'll tell you, this idea of not being heard is exactly why I've structured our time together, to be a little front-loaded on hearing from you, and then we can step into these concepts a little more deeply. Yeah, what concerns you? Yeah. Being able to be who I am. Yeah. I want to name that when we are carrying in our brains and our hearts a fear of never recovering, of hatred, right? Or at best, a severe misunderstanding of your field and what it seeks to do. Full destruction of food safety. It would be a common misunderstanding of leading change to think that if we didn't ask this question, that this stuff wasn't real, or to pretend that, oh, these answers just manifested because the question was asked, right? And that is certainly not the case. Disrespectful strong-arm tactics. Yeah, that more people will die. As someone whose son got E. coli from a Caesar salad mix, I love food safety. Yeah. Mistrust, right? Mistrust on a scale of people you can never see face to face, right? The challenge of rebuilding is so incredibly difficult. Again, people do not fear change. So when you're at your next, county, state, whatever, and they're like, well, people fear change, so we know we've just got to keep marching ahead. I invite you to consider sharing the perspective. People fear loss. And if we can't sit with, grapple with, wrestle with the loss, forget it. Forget resilience, right? Forget innovation, because to be resilient in this moment, you must hold these things, these very deep, I'm not sugarcoating, and I'm also not inflating. And I'm looking at Nick, the most serious list of things we've ever seen come up in a mentee. To be resilient, we must hold both things. We must hold all of those losses, all of those concerns that are granular, personal, and huge, big picture, national, global. And we must keep putting one foot in front of the other, right? This is no small task to think about resilience in this way. I want to introduce you to the J curve of change. I have no doubt that you have maybe thought about change in this way, or you're being asked to think about change in this way, that we've got where we currently are, we've got where we want to go, and we're just going to put one foot in front of the other. The little visual that always comes to mind for me is that little mountain climber guy on The Price is Right. He's just yodeling as he gets up the side, and we want it to feel just like that every day is getting better. And this is how most of us experience change. And I want to issue a caution. I think a lot of you are going to be in the J. I think you might be there for a while. I think you might almost be out of it and slip down again. And I am also not implying that where you're going is better than where you were. So I want to give you that caveat to this model. But also, I still think there's value in sharing it to think about how humans experience change. We think about this dip in the J as just the valley of death, right? That this is where change initiatives, now I'm not talking about some of the things you're living through, I'm talking about normal change initiatives would often go and just die because it's too difficult in the bottom of the J. It's very uncomfortable down there. We feel tension about what we knew before that isn't quite fitting anymore. We might feel doubt about our ability to persevere, right? We might feel doubt about our ability to do the new thing we're being asked to do. And again, I'm going to say, because it would be remiss if I didn't, I'm not implying that you're living through the goal of this new beautiful status quo, but I think you can think about that dip in a way that's very humanizing for yourself and others. And other people in your lives are likely experiencing change. You might be guiding family members through change as well, whether that's change of school, whatever. So I do find this to be a helpful model. I didn't want you to think I was sugarcoating by saying what you're working toward might feel that sunshine and roses. I want to give you a chance to reflect. Where do you think you are on this J curve? When you think about the change that you're in, where do you think you are? And here's another thing I want to name and normalize, because I know we have leaders of people and we have someone who's transitioning from being a specialist to a manager. It is not uncommon for people in formal leadership to be way ahead of the curve. Maybe they knew about change, they kind of navigated those feelings, and by the time they're out of it, they're sharing the message with someone else, and now those folks are going to go through their own curve, right? So if you've been involved in decision making, if you have a high degree of power and authority, you may have skipped it because you were insulated from the change, you had a lot of control over it. Or you might have worked through some of that and you're over here already. If you have moved through it, it's easy to look back at the people in the dip and say, what's your problem? Come on, get with it. We're working on this. And when I'm in the bottom of the J, I'm usually looking up thinking like, you don't get it. You don't understand that I'm stuck down here. I was in the J a couple weeks ago about some stuff in my personal life that I'm going to give a big thumbs down. And I just nicknamed it Tums and Tylenol. Like, that's where I was. It felt like my tummy and my head just hurt, and I've just got a one foot in front of the other, to quote one of our friends. Yes, Samantha, and then feeling broadsided, or you feel like you just got pushed. You think you know how it's going and you don't, right? And that's what makes me think for this group, you might be finding a new normal, and then you might get pushed back down a little bit. So friends, because I know that this group values science, you will join me in experimenting in a new mentee slide. I'm not going to lie, Nick and I are very excited. This is a different kind of slide. It's interactive, and you can plot where you think you are on the J curve of the change that you're experiencing. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you, science friends, for giving this a try. Okay, yeah. Keep it going. So some of us are kind of rebounding. Yeah. I really appreciate the folks using it. Also, we knew we could experiment with you a little bit because you value experimentation and science. So thanks for trying this new slide with us. Yeah. And I'm going to make some guesses too about this. If I feel like I'm coming out, I may have already survived some cuts. We might have already received whatever big news we were expecting to see, right? We might have worked through some of that stuff. So what I want you to see that as some things have probably happened or feel more predictable now, but we had a lot of folks in the dip. When you are in the dip, I want you to think about resilience as that one foot in front of the other, of holding the losses and continuing to make progress in any way that you can. If you are out of the dip, I want to invite you to think about, how can I help others who are down there? A simple way to start, right, is just extending understanding about how hard it is for them. A gift of a session like this to this collaborative group is you've got some common language. You know, on our team, we use this regularly, like, I'm at the bottom of the J. Like, it is not pretty right now. It's my Tums and Tylenol week. I'm just managing. Even being able to normalize that and have others say, like, ooh, what can I do? Or, ooh, you want me to listen? That in and of itself is a boost of resilience, because a brain that can be heard is a brain that can activate our most sophisticated thinking, right? We're going to move right up into our executive brain because we have been heard. That, again, a common misunderstanding. If I allow people to complain, they're going to stay back here. It's the opposite. If we can hold these concerns, if we can voice them, if we can feel not alone, if I can see a colleague, I'm going to pretend Gretchen is a colleague I look up to very much. If I can see her moving through the curve and coming out, that can help me find some inspiration or some camaraderie that I need right now. Yes, I love this. Taking a moment to organize and prioritize my tasks and time to help me move out of the bottom. One breath. Yes, eat that elephant one bite at a time. And some grace and some understanding about how challenging the bottom of the J is. Nobody wants to be down there, right? Nobody. Here are some risks of the J curve. Increased frustration and doubt. Abandoning initiatives too quickly. I think that goes with what I would call like more traditional change, less, I don't know, radical change or catastrophic change. I'm not quite sure what word I want to use. Low confidence in the vision and morale challenges. And I suspect that you're feeling a lot of increased frustration and doubt and some morale challenges based on what you shared. So I want to give us a chance, and we got a nice kickoff from this. Yeah, seeing all of those in the office. I want to say two things. One, if you are contributing to the chat, Samantha, Gretchen, others, thank you for seeing and being present with others and sharing what you're seeing firsthand, because you are helping build resilience by normalizing the struggle, right? That is a huge understated way of thinking about resilience. This is what I want us to do. I want to give you a chance to think about a time you were in the bottom of the J, and what helped you move through the dip? What helped you move through the dip? I want to give you a chance to think about that. Yeah, yes. We got a question that came into hosts and panelists. How do I know if I'm on the rebound when I'm being done at the bottom of the J? Is it possible to have a W at the bottom? Yes, yes, all of it. I'll tell you the truth. It's really hard to know if you're on the rebound. I don't know that there's a solid scientific answer for that, like I know this group would value. What I tell myself is, if I've had about 2 weeks of feeling like things are going better, feeling my energy improving, seeing some positive changes in how I'm responding to things, I tell myself I'm on the way. But I'm going to tell you what, I've never heard anyone ask about the W at the bottom. And boy, have I been living that myself. I think I'm making traction. Something else happens. And so I'm not moving back because the context is different, but I'm down again. So I think, part of it's knowing yourself, but for me, when I think about it, if I've had about 2 weeks where I feel like this is I'm chugging along, I'm doing it, I'm climbing out. And yeah, I think Samantha's exactly right. The rebound looks different for everyone. The rebound might look different for someone who's worried about funding and finds an alternative source than it does to someone who feels like their identity is on the line or science as a whole is on the line, right? So sometimes understanding where we're stuck in the bottom helps us understand what might help us get out or just how long we might be there, right? I'm going to say this with love, right? The more existential, the larger scale that can be or feel, the more you might swirl down there a little bit. Here are some things that we have seen firsthand working with other groups, acknowledging and naming the dip, right? So sharing where you think you are, being able to say that, not being judged for being down there. How about that for a good one? Extremely helpful. Communicating often and as transparently as you can. I know that can be a challenge when you feel like, oh, there's just stuff we can't share yet, but even sharing that is very helpful to maintaining trust. And I would say when we think about communicating, we think about it as the messages we're sending, but the higher power and authority you have, I want you to focus your communication really on that listening. Encouraging open dialogue. Yeah, Gary, this is what I love about this session, and keep them coming. Yes, so we had, I think it was Samantha was like, I organize my time, I plan things out, that helps me keep moving. Gary says it helps to realign his focus on things he can actually change, and that's where he finds his wins. And Gary, I didn't even pay him, but look at that, boom. Finding some quick, important wins, right? So whether that's things within your focus, whether that's, things within your power, maybe it's writing to people. Yeah, yeah, you got it, Gary. The check's in the mail. Thanks for that. It's $2.25 and it'll be heading your way. But those quick, important wins, no matter what they are, I don't want you to think of anything as too small here. Maybe it's continuing to write letters. Maybe it's getting people in your circle reaching out and contacting on your behalf. Maybe it is organizing your desk. Nothing is too small for a quick, important win when you are trying to get that footing, right? Trying to keep moving forward. Thinking about additional resources. That could be one another. It can be the organization. It could be therapy. It could be a lot of different things, different collaborations maybe than you've considered in the past. And offer ongoing support to one another. This was one of my favorite sessions, and it was a group. And the one guy said, you know what I'm going to do when I see someone in the bottom of the J? And I said, what? He said, I'm just going to come alongside them and say, like, here's some things I've been doing. Do you want to do any of these? Do you want to do something else? Yes, Carrie, Stand Up for Science rally. And it was great to surround myself with others who value science. Share all of those moments. And I can only imagine when you are doing directly or indirectly, right, helping manage, people doing absolutely essential work that is behind the scenes, that feels thankless at times, that doesn't make headline, I don't know that I've read enough headlines that are like 15,000 jars of baby food pulled before they hit the millions of babies saved, right? Whatever. I don't know that I see that headline enough. And then a breakfast club every Friday that includes everyone. I love that too. Keep these coming. And this is also what I want to encourage you to think about. What is within your control? What is within your power? What power maybe have you given away that you could reclaim? I feel this, I feel the energy in this, and I feel this science vibe because my oldest son is quite the budding and aspiring scientist, and he's been hit very hard. seeing a lot of these things. So I want to name, if you weren't sure, there is a 14-year-old in Iowa who is standing with you, and I couldn't be prouder. So you're not alone, right? Absolutely not. I want to introduce you to this framework of the 4 needs of talent. When we think about resilience, when we think about how will we make it out of this J, how will we strive or thrive or survive what we're experiencing, I want to invite you to lean into this framework. Tara J. Frank, she's fantastic, really good read. These are the 4 needs of talent, the 4 needs of humans. These are your 4 needs right now / always, and all the people you're interacting with. And I love how she breaks it down. To be seen, right? Seen for what you do and who you are. Seen for the positive things that you're doing to make the world better, quite frankly. That people like you are visible in this fight, I'm going to name it like that, or are visible in this work, that you can see people like yourself contributing all along the way. I know this one, ding, if this was Family Feud, this might be this group's #1 answer, right? To be respected. And in your case, respected for that work you do, and respected that the field of work that you do is respected, that science itself feels respected. So even think about, how are we giving that to one another? Who are we connecting with to make the conditions where we can experience these 4 needs? That's a push I would give this group. Right to be valued, we certainly heard echoes of that today, echoed in terms of valued in terms of the work that you do, the bigger picture, science as a whole. I mean, those 2 are going right together today. And to be protected, right? And when I look at this list, and we usually refer to protection, we work with lots of people where OSHA and physical protection is readily understood, but psychological safety, or that psychological protection, being able to disagree without retaliation, right? That would fall into that bucket. I don't want to tell you that a magic wand is going to change publicly how all that's looking. But I would love to push you to think about, how can we boost those 4 in our corners, right? And I know we've got some, oh yeah, 1950s dress. Samantha, we must be friends, to be continued. So Gary, the check's in the mail. Samantha, evidently we're friends, but we've never met. Let's keep going on this. But I really want to push you in the spirit of resilience and of things in your control. How do we give these 4 things to each other? How can we help meet these 4 crucial needs of one another, of our community, of our small department? And this is what I want us to reflect on. So I'm going to bring up a slide. What would great look like with the 4 needs within your organization? So what would great look like to meet those 4 needs within AFDO? And PS, if you want to think about it through your county health department, your state health department, your researching university, whatever that looks like for you, you throw that in too. But when you think about, what would great look like? What would it look like to see one another, to respect one another, to value one another, to protect one another? What would that look like? What are some very specific things you might say, you might do? Yes, thank you, Nick, for echoing that in the chat. The needs: seen, respected, valued, protected. So we're going to go back to Mentee, my friends. What would that look like? Yeah, fear would be gone and empowerment taking its place. Yeah, good. I love this already, because we might be able to dream a little bit that if we were helping one another with these needs, this is what might be possible. Yeah. And what, I'm going to give a little loving push. And what could you do? What is within your power? Yeah. Meeting people where they are instead of halfway. Good. So some of these could be, if they aren't already, because this is a very smart bunch, some of these could become to-do list items. Like, what would it look like to get an FDA town hall, right? But yes, I want to give a shout out. A risk of thinking about the 4 needs as what others can do for you is that we can often come up short. So I really want to push you to think, what can we do for one another? And I think this one, brainstorming and prioritizing short-term wins, informing the public, these are your action items, my friend. Yeah. Yep. Good. And this is what is challenging. And I want to normalize this too. When we're struggling with resilience, when we're struggling with change, it is very easy to see what others can do. And I'm going to tell you, everything on here is reasonable. You should be able to receive all of that from other people. Adequate funding, getting in the ear of the people leading this work at a national level. Like, all of those things are true. And the watch out for us when we think about our own resilience is, can I work on these? Yes, but what are my action items? What can I do for myself? What can I do for others? So I want to give you that loving push when you think about those needs. What do you not need anyone else's permission to do? What can you do on your own, right? So I want to give a loving push on, yeah, more praise to my team members doing hard work, leading with empathy. Yeah, being true to ourselves, our values, our integrity. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. An open space for one another, right? To share challenges, to come up with ideas without repercussions. So that's what I want to give you. Again, just that push one more time. And listen, where you're at right now, that external focus feels inevitable, right? And is okay. I don't want you to lose sight of what others need to be doing. But I'm saying, when we're struggling, when we're in that J, when we're navigating loss, one of the most powerful tools we have is focusing on what is within our control. And so the things that were coming in that second half, I see as things you can be doing immediately. This is where I want us to go. I want to have a final reflection, and then I'm going to leave some time to take your questions. So my friends, 1 hour just goes very fast, but we will get there. This is what I want to invite you to think about. How has your thinking about change and resilience shifted during our time together? And second, what might you try that is new or different based on today? What might you try? I'm going to give you a minute to reflect, and then we've got one mentee. But I want you to capture your own thinking here. I'll give you about 20 more seconds. Take a moment to capture your own thinking. And then our final mentee. What insights do you want to hold on to from our time together? This might be concepts. This might be something someone said or chatted during the session that really lit you up. Something you're going to try. What insights do you want to hold on to? This might even be some of the mentee data from your colleagues. I mean, I think there's quite a bit here to hold on to. Yeah, the J does not last forever. And I'll tell you, the J is kind of sinister because it sure feels like it will. Yeah, the J is natural too, right? To try to minimize the fear, name it and be mindful, and it may last a while. What's in your control? Yes, knowing you're not alone. That's a very powerful feeling in and of itself. finding those small wins. Yeah. Yeah, we may be damaged, but we aren't giving up. That's giving me like Star Wars trilogy vibes, you know, like, whew, The Empire Strikes Back is just painful to watch, you know what I mean? But you'll get that Millennium Falcon going. I have faith in this group. Empowering staff. Yeah. Good. Keep them coming. I'm going to leave it up for a minute. Yeah. We've got one in the chat, shifting perspectives from fear of change to fear of loss. It helps us get really clear. I do love that one. And when we can think about the loss, it helps shine a light on our values and our priorities too, right? I think that's a very powerful place to be. Yeah, I'm going to leave it up for just a moment. Yeah, good. Friends, I want to share one more code, and then I want to open it up to changes. I would invite you to scan and sign up for our newsletter. We're doing a lot related to change this month. Resilience, change. We've got more on the J curve actually, because we're hearing from so many folks that that's something that they need. So totally free newsletter every week. You'll see my email there. I can't emphasize this enough. I want to support you. If you want to hop on for 15 minutes and share something you did related to this that filled your bucket, if you want to brainstorm ideas for how you can bring those 4 needs to your team and talk about them in your little microcosm of folks, how you would do this, I want to brainstorm with you. I love science. I love scientists. I love safe food, medicine, cosmetics, and medical devices. So if you truly reach out, I can always email you ideas. We can always hop on. Sometimes someone will ask a question. I'll just record a little video and pop it back to them. If you were feeling like you are alone, not only are the people in here with you, I'm with you. Our team is with you. So do not hesitate for a second to reach out if you have one that you're just stuck on, right? So I do this all the time. You're in good hands, my friends. I want to invite my friend Jason back on. We can open this up for a Q&A. Jason, if you have any questions you want to kick us off with, otherwise we can go to the chat. I'll follow your lead on that, my friend.
Yeah. So please ask any questions in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll keep an eye on it. I did have 2 questions that I was going to ask you, but you mentioned Star Wars. So now I want to talk about Star Wars. And you can't see it, it's blurred behind me, but this right here, that's an X-Wing. It's just blurred.
Oh.
I thought it was really interesting what you said about Empire Strikes Back. And right, like that's tough. Like that's a tough movie. Like it is, you know, the title of the movie is like that movie doesn't end on a happy note.
No.
But it's everybody's favorite movie when, you know, it's many Star Wars people.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think that's because like there's that idea of resilience, right? Like, you know, what an opportunity to be resilient when something's so terrible, so many things that are terrible are happening around you.
Yes.
Like talk about some of the inner resilience that it takes to like stand up in the face of what seems to be so overwhelming.
That's a great question. And now I'm thinking about Empire Strikes Back too. Yeah, okay, Samantha, yes. Wait, I saw one in the chat and there it went away. The idea of Wicked and the roller coaster of the J curve, right? Like, so your question was like, what's happening on the inside? One, what I think would track really well for this group and what I think worked for the Rebels and for Elphaba, and throw any others in here that you want, is a belief that what you're doing is for the greater good. A belief that what you're doing matters to making the world better and never relinquishing that. Like when we think about things that light up our brain, conviction and passion are highly motivating, highly inspiring, right? To not lose sight of what it's all for is perhaps the best thing. And so as much as you can, even if you feel like others aren't listening, for one another, right? Because I think something that happens, I've got my Star Wars hat on now too. I don't ever remember a scene where Luke and Leia are like, I don't know, maybe we just give it all up to the Empire after all, right? Or like Elphaba never stops thinking that the wizard has to go, right? So like maintaining your commitment to something bigger than yourselves, the anchoring of that is extremely beneficial and can be challenging when it feels like no one else believes, right? When she's flying off on the broom, she's by herself. That can't feel good for her, right? When your friend is now frozen in carbonite, seeing the other side of this feels impossible. So I would say that would be my number one thing. Stay very rooted in your values, very grounded to what you want to see, and then be as loud about it as often as possible, which I know can be tricky now too. But and also something that I think they do well in that. I guess I'm going back to a Star Wars moment. So thanks everyone else who's not into it. If you're a Marvel person, you can toss that in here too. We'll allow it today. Or Star Trek, whatever that's called. No, I'm just teasing. But there's something in there about maintaining that drive, maintaining that commitment, not relinquishing it, not laying it down, but doing all that while you conserve your energy, right? The rebels, Elphaba, they don't have the resources for constant bombardment, constant attacks. So, there might be times when you have to be really strategic with the energy, with the money, with the influence you have, and how do you make that count? So something I believe about this group, this is a really smart group. This is a very scientific, strategic group. Think about how you'll use energy and influence when it's limited. Yeah, some of their trainees, give me the why. You lost a friend to bacterium. And yes, keep your why. Keep the why, right? This is giving me vibes. I'm going to use this, A Man in the High Castle, right? And there's a time when not everyone remembers what it used to feel like or what is possible, right? And so how can you keep that without losing sight of what's possible? And I think for a group that does incredibly valuable work, often behind the scenes, helping people see it, helping people understand. People like me who are just getting their groceries and, gosh, probably taking you for granted, right? Like, how do you bring that to life? I think that's a inspiring kind of challenge. Yeah. What's your
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm ready for the next one.
So what do you think are some of the, we talked about them a little bit, but what are some of the biggest hurdles to resilience? Is it just that not believing in yourself, not believing in your mission? What are some other hurdles that you've either experienced or witnessed in a lack of resilience?
I mean, your situation and lots of other, maybe it's science or people supporting or doing government work directly. I mean, a big challenge will be what you have to work with, right? And I'm not minimizing that in any way. I don't want to sugarcoat that. And that's part of why I wanted us to think about what's in our control, because barriers to resilience would be starting to believe that it doesn't matter, or feeling like you're alone and knowing that it matters. Giving up on professional growth or professional learning, or keeping in touch with colleagues, reading. A common pitfall or trap that works against resilience is that because we're hurting, we want to isolate ourselves. And I want you to do the opposite. I want you to stay arm in arm. I want you to keep reaching out. So yes, another trap people fall into is just that isolation, because it's easy to see the factors outside of your control, kind of like an avalanche, right? And you just want to close off. But I want you to be strong together in this moment. So those would certainly be. And the other thing is, I serve a lot of teams and organizations across industries with change. And I mean, yours certainly feels like the least predictable right now of all the teams. So like, it's even hard for me to forecast a little bit. So that's why I want to ground you in what's within your control and how do you stick together and how do you stay focused in why this matters and tell other people about it. Yeah.
So this is a good question from Samantha. You know, a lot of the people who our attendees lead are field
Yeah.
staff who are fully remote. How
Yeah.
can they help sort of address the isolation for some of those team members?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I have seen this done well a lot of different ways. One, if you're the leader, or even if you're just an influencer on the team, I would encourage you to do something as simple as virtual office hours. You're going to block off as little as a half hour, as much as a half day, right? Because you're just going to work until someone pops in. Make it known that that's a space that they can come in and connect, right? Making sure that you're keeping one-on-ones with team members as much as you can, or those small groups with team members. I want you to consider doing that. Another one that can be really helpful if you're working across time zones, or it's just kind of an asynchronous environment, right? Like I'm envisioning someone's in the field going into a plant, right? You're not able to connect, or maybe they can't even hear you if you were going to connect because it's loud in there. I'm kind of playing out that dynamic. Using a free tool like Loom, or even Zoom to record a quick video to share with folks, anything you can do to keep those connections, to offer multiple ways of connecting. I have a friend who works in the government, and they've ramped up their texting between the team. They've just taken it a little more offline to support one another. What I don't want you to do is another common trap. I guess this goes back to the first question. Another common trap would be that we assume others don't want to connect, right? So step one is like, I'm isolating because I'm hurting, and I'm kind of assuming other people aren't interested. Not everyone's going to be interested all the time, but how do I keep as many lines open as possible? And I think virtual office hours are one of my personal favorite. Hold them regularly, just it's a space people can pop in. You can invite someone, of course, during that time, but that's one of my easiest, again, I think as little as a half hour is good. I've seen some leaders, they have a half day where they're just online, they're getting other stuff done, but they're available anytime. It's like a virtual open door, right? That's another way to think about it. So yeah, and Samantha, if you want to talk through your specific, or anyone else, email me and I can help you problem solve or troubleshoot for sure.
That's a great tip that you just had too about, hey, don't assume someone
Yes.
wants to be solitary, because that's a really easy thing to do. Is like, hey,
Yeah.
this person's dealing with a lot. They probably want some
Yes.
time alone. And
Yes.
it's rarely
Yes.
the case, right?
Yes. And I would say this, even if you initiate and today isn't the day, don't assume there's never going to be a day, right? How do we keep extending those invitations to people? Because I could picture too in this field, it might feel like, just let me do my job. Just everyone be quiet and let me test this. Let me inspect this. Let me, monitor this data, right? Like I'm imagining all those things. And it might feel good to close off and do that. And so how do you both resist the urge to stay there? And how do you keep extending? Again, someone's first reaction might be, I'm too overwhelmed right now to even, like, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I mean, that's certainly been me. Like, I've reached capacity for even thinking about this today. And how do we make sure that person knows, first, that's okay. We all have days like that. And also, I'll be online tomorrow from noon to 1. Maybe you just want to pop on and eat lunch together, right? Like, how do we keep it frequent, low stakes, able to come on, able to share, able to be present? Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. One other thing, and this came up a couple of times in the chat too, is, what are some examples of some of the small wins that people could take away? I love that concept. I've always kind of worked with that concept. What are the small things that I can do to chip away at something and say, you know what, this is a little check mark that I can add on to today.
Yes. Okay. Things I've seen working for other teams, it can be as small as literally organizing your space or plotting out your day. I mean, it's that small. But other things might be, maybe we're going to have a strategy meeting to get ready for that. I forgot the name of the event, but like, let's come together and let's think about, how are we going to show up at this science rally this weekend? Who's one friend each of us could get to go with us? How might we reach out to this other group who we have worked with in the past and we have similar interests and now we're both kind of floating off, right? So like, I want you to put anything on the table that feels good. And I want you to think about that for yourself as a whole person. There are days at work I can have my quick wins, and there are days that like Teresa at home has her quick wins. This is a silly example, but one that really just, that anyone who loves a check mark. Today's my daughter's birthday. She wanted waffles for breakfast. I wanted to deliver on the waffles. And my quick, important win last night was pre-measuring the ingredients, so they were just ready to go for the morning. And like, that freed up so much in my brain. So I would invite you to think of quick wins as things that might benefit you and the organization, but also things that just take, we call it on our team, fruit out of the jello. Like, oh, I got a lot of fruit in the jello up here. I've got a lot of just like free floating ideas. So what would be a quick win? What are some of those things you can move off of your to-do list? Things that you've been hanging on to that need to do. Yeah, brain dump. Even a brain dump in and of itself is a win, right? You can sort it into stuff we would love and come back to me in 3.5 years, stuff within my control today, stuff maybe another organization wants to partner on. Dream partnerships we might have time to pursue because things are looking a little different right now, right? Like, just go for it. Yeah, a list of things before give yourself some grace. You have to be adaptable and take the tasks. And I guess I'm picking examples too that feel a little different because I'm thinking about one of my very favorite clients. They're a bank. And so for them, quick wins are like, we organized a series of 3 lunch and learns on or we got this report off on time. Like, they have very different kind of tangible things. And I'm thinking of this group in a little bit of you're in an unpredictable time. So a quick win could be as small as the desk and could be as big as like, I'm gonna call Melinda Gates today. I mean, I don't know what it is, right? But like,
but you're right? Like, I mean, that's what's great about a small win too, is like you're defining it, so to speak. As long as it makes you feel good about it being a win. I mean, we're not trying to trick ourselves into it, but right.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, when you're in the J, when you're in that point of really being intentional about resilience, nothing is too small that makes you feel good. Nothing is too small that gives you that hit of like, I think I'm going to make it today. Like,
yeah, right.
I'm going to do it. Yeah, good.
So we only have a couple minutes left, so we're going to wrap up. But Teresa, thank you so much, and tell your daughter that we all said happy birthday today.
I know.
But thank you so much for this presentation. I know I enjoyed it. I know everyone else did, as you know, they were all in the chat. And thank you everyone for participating in the chat and all the interactive stuff we have going on. So thank you all so much. As one more reminder, we have one more session in this webinar series. The registration link is in the chat. If you swipe back up to the top, which we had so many good comments, it's going to take you a while to get back up there, right? The session tomorrow at noon is doing more with less, how to streamline your operation when funding is cut. And you can also find more information on our website if you go to afto.org/events. And thank you so much, Teresa. Thanks again. Thank you everyone for being part of this, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Yeah, don't be a stranger. Reach out if you get stuck.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.